Chen Jingji, and thank you for joining our podcast today to talk about Pam Bondi, the matter of the Attorney General being dismissed.
Hello, Feng Fei. Hello to all our viewers.
Hello, everyone. Just yesterday, Donald Trump posted a brand new tweet on social media where he really highly praised the recent Trump movie. A lot. He said the work was outstanding. But now he is no longer being appointed.
He never called the work outstanding.
He didn't say the work was outstanding.
He is a deeply loyal and devoted friend, and he serves with unwavering faithfulness. So he simply didn't say the work was outstanding. He just said,
He has loyalty, he said. Tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime.
that is to say, when it comes to...
He is relatively effective in cracking down on crime, right?
Yes, that's right.
Actually, a lot of people probably aren't too surprised by this, because all along within the conservative camp, there has always been criticism of Pan Bandit's work. The results of his work have always been met with a lot of criticism. But in the end, Trump has basically decided, you are fired. In other words, he was dismissed. From what I see in the media reports right now, there are basically two main reasons, two biggest reasons. One is that he was ineffective in handling the Applestand documents, and his approach was inappropriate. The other is that in prosecuting Trump, he was seen as ineffective by those who believe it was political persecution against the Republican Party or Trump himself. He mishandled those, viewing it as political persecution. Those are the 2 points. Your thoughts?
Aren't these 2 points enough? These 2 points are more than enough. He couldn't even withstand one, and now he has both.
Do you think that's the case? That he really was ineffective in handling things on these 2 points?
Extremely ineffective. It's really as bad as it gets. This is a huge problem. Look, let's put it this way. First, let's talk about this. The Epstein files, the Epstein files were made fully public. Yes, it was like squeezing toothpaste, dragged out back and forth, manipulated by others. Originally, you had a justified case, but you released it so slowly. Fine. Okay, fine. Then President Trump signed an order to release the Epstein files. That's fine. Just release them in due course. But there were some issues with the details. If people want to nitpick, they can still find issues. But once this thing was made public, after all the files were released, the UK arrested Prince Andrew directly. Also, there was a former British ambassador to the US named Mendelsohn. They arrested him too, so both of them were taken into custody. So what were the charges against these two? It was possible that during their association with Epstein, they betrayed the national interests of the UK. So both of them were arrested. These two people were taken into custody. As for whether they were actually prosecuted or what happened next, we don't know. Moreover, Prince Andrew's royal titles have already been stripped away. This is the UK. You see, Epstein made connections with wealthy people all over the world, including the UK. He was one of those powerful and influential people. But your main base is still in the United States. You made connections with so many people at all levels in America, yet in the UK, these two people were arrested. Has anyone in the United States been prosecuted or arrested? Has anyone? No, right? Moreover, the Epstein files, as early as last February, when Pam Bondi was interviewed, she said during the interview that the Epstein files were right there on her desk. And then later she said, I don't have this file. What do you mean by that? Do you think we're stupid? I mean, you can't just handle things like this. And also, look at this situation. Let's just talk about this. He handled things with extreme incompetence. And what else? At the time, I still thought, after all, you have to give someone the benefit of the doubt. You can't just immediately judge what kind of person he is. After all, he served as Attorney General in Florida. 8 years as Attorney General, right? And yet, what happened? Later, people like James Comey were arrested. That is, they were prosecuted, indicted. But then later, the judge tossed it out. What does this show? It shows that his lawyer in the whole process of representing him, because the Department of Justice is the one that goes to court to represent President Trump. The DOJ lawyers who handle these lawsuits are the ones preparing for court. When preparing for these matters, they were extremely flustered and ineffective. In other words, they just weren't up to the task. They didn't manage to make a strong case. Even Trump recently renovated the banquet hall. But even that didn't go well. The rulings were all unfavorable. You know, right? So this issue is not just about that. If you look at this matter, let's make a comparison. The Biden administration. You say Biden is an incapacitated old man, right? Let's not talk about that for now. Let's just talk about the Biden administration. Back then, when Merrick Garland was serving as Attorney General, it took him less than a year to appoint this special prosecutor and also this individual, along with the elected district attorney representing Fulton County, located in the state of Georgia, coordinated to indict Trump over his connections with Georgia. At the same time, he also coordinated another case. What was it about? The one in New York where they accused Trump of fraud and also said Trump, what was it, in his 2022, or rather from when he took office in 2021 to 2021, basically all these things were handled during that period, bits and pieces like that. And then by 2022, Trump was already in his current position. That is to say, by 2022, he already had a lot of things going on. A lot of prosecutors were already deployed to investigate Trump targeting him. Wasn't that just targeting someone? Even though Trump eventually defeated all of them, now I want to ask you, right now, have you nominated or appointed any special prosecutors to look into these matters? You have so many cases now. Even Tozy Garber has traced the origins of the Obama-era Russiagate incident. All of these things have already been made public. All of this information has been released. What have you done? Do you want to go after James Comey or someone else? And what about Letitia James and these people? That's what I'm asking. What have you actually accomplished now? As for last August, do you remember Trump was very dissatisfied and said, we're going to start arresting people right now. And then immediately the Department of Justice took that person away. But later the judge tossed it out, and then the Department of Justice did it again. But what did they actually do? Back then, when James Comey was taking a walk by the beach, he wrote an 8,647. He wrote an 8,647. This was clearly an attempt to assassinate him. In our view, this posed a threat to President Trump's life. So in the end, what was your Department of Justice doing about this? So this Pump Bondi, when I look at those reports about him, I think back in December, Trump was already losing patience as early as last August. But Trump still gave him, you could say, a chance, benefit of the doubt. But now Trump really can't stand it anymore. I estimate that after Trump listened to the case about birthright citizenship, he felt that the Department of Justice's preparation was also extremely inadequate or simply not up to standard. That's why, not because of this particular case, but ultimately it made him realize that things couldn't go on like this anymore. In other words, President Trump could control everything else, but not the Department of Justice. In this regard, he is absolutely incapable.
Yes, I think when you mentioned the special counsel, actually some people say he should have from the very beginning just appointed a special counsel to handle the Epstein files case. He shouldn't have tried to handle it himself. I think that's a major problem he had.
This guy is useless. Not to mention people like Merrick Garland. This kind of person grew up within the bureaucratic system, and he knows exactly how to operate. That is to say, this person knows exactly what to do and how to handle things. Moreover, he belongs to the type of people who actually have professional skills. But people like Pandy don't have that ability. They just don't know how to do it. Go dream about draining the swamp. He might be a very loyal person. What I oppose most about him is this. Back in February this year, at that time, if you check the news, you'd see he didn't appoint a special prosecutor, nor did he get a prosecutor to go after people. To what extent? He just hung a huge portrait of Trump at the entrance of the Department of Justice. What's the point of that point?
Yes, thank you. I think there's an issue. As soon as he took office, my impression was that he was exposed in the media way too much. At the time, I remember not just me, many people were asking, why are you on the media every single day?
You can't really say that. Our Minister Besant, for example, was on even more than him. I actually liked watching Besant because he appeared in the media so often. As soon as he showed up, I would watch him. It's really nothing, not a big deal at all. The key is, what about him, that Bondi, the last time? Look at the last time he was on. It was in Parliament when Bondi and the others were arguing in Parliament.
Back then,
during the hearing when they were arguing, let me tell you, after I watched that, I completely lost interest in Bondi. I didn't have even the slightest bit of confidence in him anymore because as the Minister of Justice, people in that position should always be the type who smiles warmly, just always smiling. I also know how to handle you. When answering questions, it's always strictly according to the law. No matter how you try to mess with me, I rely on the law. That kind of professional competence is right there for everyone to see. But then he went and started arguing with people in Congress, just arguing back and forth. I don't need you. I could just go to the market and find anyone. Any random auntie could go argue, so why do I need you, right?
Anyway, what I'm saying is, of course, one reason might be his own abilities. Another reason is that the DC swamp really might be especially tough to deal with. Some people say that the Department of Justice, with its 10,000 employees, has already become highly politicized, so it's not that simple. Of course, just taking office means you have to be someone who can really tackle tough problems. But I still think that, frequently appearing in the media, especially at the beginning, when there are so many things waiting to be addressed, frequently appearing in the media indicates something. The problem is that it shows a tendency to focus more on appearances rather than actually getting things done. I think this is an issue. After all, the Ministry of Justice is still different from the economy. For economic matters, you really do need to do a lot of communication. But for the Ministry of Justice, you don't need to say too much. You have to deliver results. No matter how much you say, it's useless. You have to show results. That's why I think in that regard, at the very beginning with the Epstein case, the reason he didn't give it to the prosecutor might have been because of this kind of thinking. I have to face the media and the public on this issue, and I have to bring this matter out into the open. As a result, I think this is exactly the problem. So later on, I saw that the Wall Street Journal had an inside story, right? There was a report saying that, first of all, he admitted that what he said was something he shouldn't have said. What did he say? He said it was on his desk. Secondly, he put together a binder for the media, right? He compiled a thick stack of documents for the media that
It was a scam.
there was nothing in it at all.
There was absolutely nothing. Just that article, nothing else. This made people really dissatisfied and led people to start speculating that the Minister of Justice must be the kind of person who is very calm and experienced. And he is also someone who understands the bureaucratic system very well. And so when it comes to making arrests or handling things, he's the type of person who does it methodically, not like, just hanging something at your door. What's the point of having a picture of Trump at your door?
Yes, exactly. So with him, I think there's also a matter of direction, a directional issue, in my opinion. That is to say, actually, because when he came out, afterwards, the White House immediately told him, saying, we are on the Apple Sun matter. We need to put out the fire, not fan the flames. It's not about blowing it up, but rather about downplaying it, turning a big issue into a small one and a small one into nothing. Because Trump himself doesn't actually have any issues in this matter. But this incident could involve a lot of effort and generate a lot of public opinion. It would become the focus of everyone's attention. So you should downplay it, not make it bigger. I think fundamentally he misunderstood this point. This is a possibility. It really is a matter of capability. It's about how you judge a situation, how you assess an issue.
Trump's nomination. As for the officials in the Department of Justice he nominated up to now, there hasn't been a single decent person, not one ever. So I'm extremely skeptical about Trump's nominations to head the Department of Justice. I didn't expect to fall into the trap again this time, and I really don't want to see nominations like Zeldin anymore. What kind of person does the Department of Justice need as its head now? An old bureaucrat. And this person, specifically someone who is very shrewd and calculating, a seasoned old bureaucrat. And he also understands the American system, so they brought him out. It's absolutely unacceptable to pick a loyal MAGA supporter. You definitely have to find an old bureaucrat to handle this kind of thing. What do you think about Giuliani? Giuliani won't do. He talks nonsense.
He really doesn't have
any credit left.
Maybe it's because he's getting old. Because I think when he was the mayor of New York, he was still very tough, very decisive.
As mayor of New York, he could do it, but he can't even get through the Senate.
Oh, right. It's unreasonable.
It's unreasonable. So we shouldn't just randomly pick someone. This is a very important position. It's crucial. You need to find an experienced old bureaucrat with real fighting spirit to get things done. But among all of Trump's core MAGA people, not a single one of them has this ability. Right now, we don't see anyone with this ability.
What about Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz is useless.
United States Senator Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz. He's someone who can put on a show, give speeches, and talk big. That's the kind of person he is. But when it comes to running the entire government and so on and so forth, this whole series of things, he doesn't have any sense for it at all. He's got no chance. He's not that kind of person. He's not someone who can actually get things done within the government system.
Ted Cruz and Mike,
Neither stands a chance.
Right now, I just don't see anyone else. What about DeSantis?
DeSantis isn't going to wade into this mess for you.
Why
would DeSantis want to come?
Actually, if he were willing to come, do you think he'd be up to it? Is that what you mean?
He absolutely could do it. DeSantis is capable, but honestly, he just won't come. That's just how it is.
Is it because he and Trump don't get along? Is that what you think?
No, it's not that they don't get along. DeSantis has his own presidential ambitions. Although his term is almost up, it's about to end soon. He's supposed to step down, and after he steps down, he'll definitely run for president. He needs to focus all his energy on the presidential race. Besides, being Trump's attorney general is a job that's bound to offend people. So someone like DeSantis, he's meticulous. What is DeSantis? He's just like Vance. Both are top students who graduated from Yale, real academic stars. He's calculating. He calculates everything very clearly. He's got everything figured out. He's capable, but he won't step up to do things himself.
Why do you say that Trump's appointments at the Department of Justice weren't very good? Besides Pam Bondi, who else are you referring to?
Wasn't the mess Jeff Sessions caused bad enough?
Well, for his first term, that's true. There really weren't any capable people available. Besides, Trump was absolutely unfamiliar with the government at the time.
You didn't have anyone in your second term either. Take Matt Gaetz, for example. Does he seem like a decent person? Matt Gaetz isn't a decent person at all. In the end, when Trump wanted to nominate Matt Gaetz, even Senator Mullen opposed him. Now, when it comes to nominations, he doesn't have these veteran officials at his disposal, even though he needs them. Someone like Bill Barr. Bill Barr does have the necessary qualities. But Bill Barr wasn't on the same page as Trump. Later, Bill Barr even became someone who was essentially anti-Trump, so people like Bill Barr. If someone like him were in Trump's inner circle, he would be the perfect figure. Someone like Bill Barr is absolutely qualified to serve as Attorney General. But the most frustrating thing is that he wasn't on the same page as Trump.
So this really is just too difficult for you. You have to both agree with and support Trump's ideas and policies. At the same time, you also need to be deeply familiar with the bureaucratic system, right? And you have to be able to handle things, be cunning and shrewd, yet also steady. You need to get things done and actually deliver results. This in itself is a bit contradictory.
No way. So now the so-called MAGA circle of Trump is just made up of these people. Among these officials, there isn't a single one who really stands out.
So if you find that you absolutely have to make do, for example, with the specific individual currently serving as the Attorney General,
Blanche could do it.
Yeah, just let him keep serving in that position. This guy,
he's fine.
He can do it. I've seen some people say it's possible. Trump will just hold off on making an official appointment for now and let him keep serving.
That's right. That's exactly it. He can do it. He's a professional lawyer. He can handle it.
So let's just see how things develop. Honestly, I think there are also some pretty radical people within the MAGA camp. They think, what, is he a Democrat or something? That's not acceptable. We absolutely have to get rid of him. I think, actually, we shouldn't label people or put a hat on them right away. You should first see how they do things, whether or not they can actually get things done, right? So if you think this person is capable...
Actually, this kind of thing, like when choosing the Attorney General, you talk about Democrats and all that, but look at Toasty Garbage's performance. I think it's pretty good. Isn't he a Democrat? And little Kennedy was also a Democrat before. Kennedy himself was also a Democrat. Being a Democrat isn't what's important. The key is that they have to meet and agree with Margaret's philosophy, and at the same time, they need to be cunning and shrewd. But it's really hard to find people like that nowadays. There just aren't any. I don't think Trump has anyone like that under him. He also understands that he needs to find someone like that, but he just can't find such a person under him. These so-called capable people, like Besant, who handles the economy, or someone like Larry Kudlow, who deals with economic matters, there's absolutely no problem with them in that regard. But when it comes to the Department of Justice, actually, the difficulty there is not low either, I think.
It's not just that it's not low, it's even higher. I think the Department of Justice is really very challenging. Because when you prosecute someone, you need to have enough evidence to bring charges, and then you can't. But this kind of... There are countless other cases that everyone is watching, including, for example, a couple of days ago, I saw that guy who specializes in undercover work. What's the name of that journalist? O'Keefe, right? James O'Keefe. He was on someone else's show, and he was complaining, saying that all these years he's been doing undercover work. He investigated a lot of things, and quite a significant portion of them were related to election fraud, but there were also some that were about other issues. But he said that the things he uncovered when handed over to the Department of Justice, with no response and no one prosecuted, he became deeply disheartened. He said, "I did so much, then investigated. After the investigation, if I remember correctly, there was also another person who seemed to frequently do this kind of work in Pennsylvania. It was election-related work. Despite submitting evidence to the Department of Justice, there was no follow-up. Discouraged now, they ask, why bother? What's the use? Paul Bondi."
He's useless.
Right? People are very unhappy with him. Really, a lot.
It's just the mega crowd. Among the so-called top figures in this camp, if you were doing something else, I might think it's okay. But when it comes to matters at the Department of Justice, there's really no one they can use right now. Look, there's really no one. A couple of days ago, someone said they wanted to bring in Zeldin from New York State for this. I said, you better not invite that old man over. If you bring him in, the Department of Justice will still be the same old mess as before.
Why do you think Zeldin isn't up to it? He has a law degree too, doesn't he? A JD, huh?
Pretty boys with JDs. Nowadays, if you throw a brick, you'll hit a bunch of them. What's the point?
So you think he's not up to it, huh?
Pretty boys just aren't good enough.
Oh, well, anyway,
That might sound a bit arbitrary, but on our show, we just say it straight. Look at him. My reason is, look at when Zhao Ding went up against Hochul back in the day, governor of New York State. If you watch his speech after you finish, it's just so weak and messy. Just forget about it. This guy's got nothing going on upstairs.
Then I don't understand why people say he's a number one as the top pick. These rumors from the outside world aren't always accurate. Let me ask you another thing. I saw a report from the Daily Mail saying that Pam Bondi was fired, and there was another reason for it. It said that recently the FBI was originally going to release something related to this Chinese spy. It was information related to Fang Fang, and then Pam Bondi gave Eric Swalwell a heads up in advance. It seems she leaked this kind of information to him. This was reported by the Daily Mail. How credible do you think this is?
Actually, this isn't surprising. Strictly speaking, Pam Bondi... Actually, this whole thing was stirred up by Kash Patel. Why doesn't this matter have much significance? Because as for what exactly happened between Swalwell and Fang Fang, we don't know, but this incident does count as a stain on his record. Congress began investigating Swalwell in 2019. They launched a 4-year disciplinary investigation. They wanted to see if he had done anything inappropriate. Congress conducted a 4-year investigation, and the members of the disciplinary committee ultimately reached a conclusion. He did not do anything he shouldn't have done. 4 years. After 4 years of investigation, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything he shouldn't have. So basically, this whole thing is over. If you want to make something out of this, it's basically hopeless. At first, I was worried he would say, I'm going to expose him. If you want to make it public, then just do it. Don't keep people in suspense. But in the end, you turned around and you didn't release it to the public. I have no idea what he was doing at the start. So this whole thing is completely a blunder by the Department of Justice. It's just one of many blunders. These people are just plain useless.
Hello, everyone. Spring is here. Many people may feel very easily fatigued, and that's because of winter. Winter has just passed, and many people have insufficient energy and blood. Their immunity drops, they have trouble concentrating, and their physical recovery is slow. There's a saying about health in spring. Nourishing yourself in spring lays the foundation for the whole year. So today, I'm going to recommend a combination that is perfect for the whole family to nourish themselves in spring. The Deep Yellow and Black Shen series products. For young people, the Shen tablets help replenish physical strength. For middle-aged and elderly people, Black Shen Yuan Jin helps stabilize blood pressure and lower blood lipids. For elders at home, Black Shen can be used in soups to replenish energy and blood. A Black Shen gift box like this is perfect for giving to your parents or to friends and relatives. It's also great for personal use. For those who are interested, if you enter my promo code FANGFEI when making a purchase, you can also enjoy a 15% discount. If you're interested, you can click the link below the program to learn more information. So what do you think about the various rumors going around now saying that actually Trump is dissatisfied with certain people? Not just Pam Bondi, but also Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and even others, including even Latnick and so on. What's your take on this? Do you think next time he'll still feel dissatisfied with someone and then fire them?
Secretary of Labor?
Could you tell me, what's the name of the Secretary of Labor?
Chavez.
Yes, that is exactly right.
That Hispanic woman, she's a federal representative from Oregon. Then she didn't get elected. So as a result, Secretary of Labor, I guess the next ones might be Kash Patel and the Secretary of Labor, they could be the next to go. If there are any issues, it would be these two people, Kash Patel and the Secretary of Labor. As for that, going to watch games and whatever else, well, those behaviors aren't exactly what you'd call particularly reassuring. This person is pretty reliable, though. Let's not talk about this matter anymore. Actually, the biggest problem here is Lori, this Ms. Chavez. She's not up to the task. With her at the Department of Labor, there will be trouble. Her husband and she, both of them are under investigation by the Department of Labor's Inspector General. They have issues. They misused Department of Labor funds, and her husband was even reported to the police. It was said that she was not allowed to enter the Department of Labor building. A female employee of the Department of Labor said this. This inappropriate behavior was caught by someone, and then the police were called. And now the judge has ordered that she is not allowed. Department of Labor, Department of Labor. The minister, she, as a labor official, can't even go into the Department of Labor to find someone. Did you know that? Is it true? Really? Is that how it is?
You should go check it out.
Oh my God.
That is exactly what I mean.
This kind of thing shouldn't happen. What is this really? You shouldn't say this is just an isolated incident or that someone is deliberately targeting her. Let me tell you. This kind of thing shouldn't happen at all, not even once, not even a single case. Look at the Obama administration. Let's talk about Obama. He's a president I really don't like. But when President Obama was in office, look at his 2 terms in the Department of Justice during those years. When Eric Holder was in office, what did he ultimately face? He was accused of contempt of Congress, right? But he just did what he was supposed to do. He carried out whatever Obama assigned him, including going after people everywhere. You know, even after Congress found him in contempt, let me ask you, did Eric Holder spend a single day in jail for being held in contempt of Congress? Not a single day. But under Trump, 2 of his people, one was Steve Bannon and the other was Peter Navarro. Both of them ended up in jail. They both went to prison. So let me ask you, what about Eric Holder? He was also held in contempt of Congress. So why wasn't he arrested? You know, right? Why is it that only Republicans get arrested? And when Democrats are held in contempt of Congress, nothing happens to them. This is a real problem. Then later, because he was held in contempt of Congress, he stepped down. He resigned. After that, Loretta was appointed. What was her name again? She was also a woman, an African-American woman who became the Attorney General. At that time, it was during the Clinton email scandal. After it was exposed, he did everything he could to cover it up and suppress it. James Comey wouldn't let them prosecute these matters. They secretly finished everything behind the scenes. I also didn't see Congress do anything, nor did I hear anyone say they broke the law or anything like that. Which judge demanded to record something against Trump? All of this, these are just things you could say are the deep state targeting him. You could put it that way. But look, both of Obama's Justice Departments did so many things, and Merrick Garland did as well. With so many things, who has been held accountable? Who has been prosecuted? I haven't seen a single one.
Yeah, that's really how it is. As for the Justice Department and Trump's cabinet, I think his team was quite capable. But honestly, if you want to talk about all of this, every position had to be loyal to his agenda or loyal to him personally. And then, on top of that, finding someone who is also competent, well, that's really not so easy. I think that's just the reality. All you can say is, fine, if you really can't do the job, then I'll replace you and hope the next one will be better. Someone who can do the job a bit better than the previous one, including Christine Norm. What do you think about Christine Norm being removed? Do you think it was an issue of her capability, or was it something about the people around her, like her husband, or maybe her own personal conduct?
All of those are issues with her. She and that other person had a rather ambiguous relationship. But there are records as evidence, whether it's hotel records or some other kind of record. But there is proof, and her husband wasn't idle either. You know, her husband wasn't idle. So the two of them basically had an open marriage. With a minister like this, what do you say? And when he was enforcing the law over in Minnesota, he didn't say it was him. He didn't. Like, look at Tom Homan, how experienced and shrewd he is. When he goes there, he tells the locals and gets everything done quietly and discreetly. He gets all the work done, too. He didn't make a big fuss or stir up any trouble. In the end, after he left, they took care of everything and settled all the issues. Christy Noem, what did you actually do? All they do is talk big. I'm just, a loyal supporter of Trump. They're just trying to survive, but you can't live that way.
If you don't have the ability,
It's not going to work.
Yeah, I think for Trump, when he looks at the people under him, he doesn't necessarily have to be absolutely loyal to him personally or anything like that. You just need to do your job well. For example, if you agree with his policies and ideas, that's for sure. You can't say, I don't agree with your Republican ideals. But on this basis, your ability is the most important thing. You don't necessarily have to say good things about Trump every day or hang his portrait up all the time, right? I think a lot of people are just like, Trump, Trump. For Trump, he might need to dig deeper. Those who don't often show up in front of him or aren't always pledging loyalty to him, but they have the ability and they're even more, I think he should dig deeper for them. People like that.
Even if he starts digging now, it's already a bit late. Let's just see how things go for him.
It's only the second year. There's still time in the second year. Even if you don't want to, you still have to dig deeper. Otherwise, you won't have anyone to use, right?
Yeah. But the Secretary of Labor and her husband, and also the Secretary of Homeland Security and her husband, the whole thing is like this. If you say you want to do something else, that's fine. If you say you want to spend some money and people say you shouldn't be spending it, that's also okay. But you can't have both husband and wife each. Each of you is doing your own thing. What is this supposed to be? This is a very harmful issue, and it's crucial. Over there, 2 people were even killed. You could say these 2 people were extreme leftists. I still don't understand, but if you are properly trained, attentive, and so on, these things wouldn't happen. The problem is, but regarding this issue, there is one thing. Some people say, they say that Tulsi Gabbard's position isn't insignificant either. I don't agree with that. I do not agree with Tulsi Gabbard's. It's nothing. It's just that Tulsi Gabbard, what is it about Tulsi Gabbard? She and Trump says Tulsi Gabbard's views are not aligned with his. What is it about? It's about the Iran war, about getting into a conflict with Iran. Tulsi Gabbard's attitude is somewhat reserved. He probably hopes not to go to war, not to get involved, or even if there is a war, our attitudes should be different. He is anti-war. That's not a problem. It's fine for you to have your own personal views. But once Trump made a decision, he was also loyal. When it came to carrying out his duties as director of intelligence, he fulfilled that role without any issues. There was nothing wrong with that, you know. He did what he was supposed to do. That's the kind of official you should look for. So why is that?
Why do people say there are issues with him?
People say there are issues with him because during an interview, Trump was asked about it. Someone brought it up. He said, my views are a bit different from his. Once he said that, everyone started talking. People started speculating, oh, his views are different from Trump's. Is he going to be in trouble? And so on. Actually, this is a misunderstanding from the outside world. It's not that if your views differ from Trump's, you're done for. Let me ask you, the current Vice President Pence, to some extent, his attitude toward Trump is also different. Regarding the Iran conflict, right now the main negotiators are the United States and Iran, the main representatives handling this matter. Trump is very clear-headed about this. It's not that everyone has to agree with me or anything like that. There's no problem with that. As for what Tulsi Gabbard did, there was absolutely nothing wrong with it.
I think there's another thing. Didn't he testify in the Senate a while ago? It seems like he didn't particularly defend Joe Kent when he resigned. It's not that he didn't defend him in particular, but rather that he didn't have much of a harsh criticism. And at the same time, he also didn't say that he was particularly defending Trump's position on attacking Iran. And he was more reserved about it during the Senate hearing. So some people feel that maybe he thinks Joe Kent's resignation was justified, or perhaps he sympathizes more with his subordinate in this situation. Actually, if there are different views on the Iran issue, and he even understands Joe Kent's position, this in itself isn't really a big problem, as long as he remains loyal to his country. The functions of the national security advisor position, right? And then he agrees with the instructions Trump gave him, or the policy direction.
Yes, that's exactly it. So I think the media is somewhat overinterpreting this. It's about Tulsi Gabbard possibly wanting to, but the Secretary of Labor and who else? Kash Patel. Those 2 are really dangerous.
In the very beginning, there was Dan Bongino. Wasn't Gino later appointed as deputy director? Bongino, deputy director of the FBI. Then later he resigned, so his appointment, wasn't that actually a pretty unreliable appointment too?
He also, you could put it that way, actually including people like, who was it, Judge Jennings and others, positions as important as D.C., for example. He appointed a prosecutor, Judge Jennings. Judge Jennings was also a prosecutor back then. But what was the main impression people had of him later on? He was with the media, a media person.
Right, he hosted media shows.
He was in charge of criticizing people publicly. That group of people basically belonged to, but as for him, Judge Jennings, his abilities were also limited. If you look at the few cases he prosecuted, including the trouble he got into by indicting Powell, it caused a lot of trouble. You see, the progress of this case has been very unsmooth, and also his prosecution. If you file a lawsuit and dig a hole, you'd better make sure you fill it in. But now the way I see it, and in the eyes of everyone, the prosecution of Powell by George Jennings makes it look like George Jennings mishandled the case rather than there being any real problem with Powell. For those of us who know the details, we understand that Powell spent $4 billion renovating a corridor. If you spend $4 billion on a single corridor and go all out on the renovation, there must be something wrong here. But when you mess things up to this extent, even if you have a legitimate case, you end up making it look like this. This is the real issue. Looking at the situation where Trump appointed Judge Jennings as the D.C. prosecutor, it becomes quite evident to us that Trump actually really did not have a very large pool of people he could use.
I think it's just that he didn't have that many people available because, in fact, there were still some very capable and outstanding people in his cabinet. But if you say that every single one of them was that outstanding, that every single one of them was that suitable, it's probably not very realistic to expect that everyone would be that competent and capable. So now, basically, I think it's starting to happen. There are some signs. His cabinet is starting to show some issues. You see, first it was Dan Bongino, right? Then Kristi Noem, and now it's Pam Bondi. If more people leave after this, then it's true that this current cabinet has also started to undergo some reshuffling. Do you think this will affect Trump's overall effectiveness in governing? Will it?
This won't have an impact. This won't affect things. But as for the Department of Justice, it's not certain that this matter can be fully resolved, like draining the swamp. This kind of thing, you might not be able to finish it. It depends. As for the next Republican, that is, who the next president will be, he doesn't have enough time now. You know, right? Because now there's not enough time left. For the Democrats, it's simple. Why did they bring up the Epstein files? Actually, they just want to use your death as a distraction from what should have been investigated. If you don't investigate, the result is in the Epstein files. They keep messing around with them, wasting time on this. Now, there's no time left. If you want to investigate and stir things up, like when it comes to investigating prosecutors and all that, a year just isn't enough. Time flies by in the blink of an eye.
Anyway, indeed, when it comes to time, there are just too many things he needs to do and too little time. So this brings up the issue of prioritization. You really have to decide what's important and how much time to spend on it. But as for Kash Patel, I think so far the FBI has actually done quite a lot. Why do you think he might be dangerous?
He was supposed to avoid causing trouble for the leadership, but he ended up causing a lot of trouble for them. A lot of trouble.
He caused a lot of trouble.
He actually went to that big celebration, the official Winter Olympics party.
What was wrong with that?
And then he did something else. His email got hacked by Iranian hackers. They even took those private photos from his home, like Gia Lynn dancing or maybe not dancing, whatever it was, fake or not, some private photos and personal conversations, and posted them online. Isn't that useless enough?
Oh my God, I didn't pay attention to it, but there really were a lot, and they really were his. So his private stuff was put online?
And the Department of Justice has already confirmed it. It has already been acknowledged that his email was indeed hacked by Iranian hackers.
All right, then. Anyway, this is true. Like you said, a lot of people didn't really pay attention to it. He probably does have a lot of personal issues. If you take his private stuff and use it as
Attorney General, or if you're the head of the FBI, shouldn't you pay attention to these kinds of personal details?
Was it during his time at the FBI, or was it some personal information from before he became FBI director?
All of his emails were seized, all were exposed, all were posted online.
All right, I think that's how it is. For Trump, if he really doesn't have that many people he can use, he has to tolerate some minor shortcomings or things that aren't particularly important. He has to put up with it a bit. But when it comes to things that are truly important and long-term, from what I see, the Wall Street Journal reported that it was on the way to the Supreme Court when he was sitting in a car with Pam Bondi. He formally told Pam Bondi, "The time has come, you have to go." Then Pam Bondi even asked him if she could stay until this summer. Trump said, "No, you have to leave right now." I think he really did endure it for a while. He felt he had endured for quite a long time and couldn't waste any more time. So, for things like this that are more important, I think Trump, he probably absolutely has to do something else. If, for example, if what he's doing isn't a problem yet, even someone like Kash Patel, I think, unless there is, for major matters, I don't think Trump should. Replacing so many people quickly could hurt his reputation. Plus, with domestic issues and midterms coming up, firing so many people isn't ideal, right?
As long as they're useless, I'll fire them. There's nothing more to say about it. It's better to fire them early than late.
Okay, fine. Anyway, there's one more thing. I think it's about his team. Another person is Susie Wells. On this day, the media also reported that Susie Wells said that regarding Trump's decision on Iran policy, she felt that everyone was giving Trump too much good news. They filter things, only telling him good news and not telling him bad news. She said people shouldn't do that. If that's the case, he will misjudge the situation. Do you believe this report?
When it comes to what these fake news people are saying, I always have to question it in my mind. But Susie Wells, this kind of person is definitely capable of doing things like this, you know? He keeps a very tight control over the president. In the past, anyone who wanted to see the president could do so. But now he's the one in charge. If I don't agree for you to meet, or if I don't make the arrangements, then you just can't. It's not possible anymore. He really keeps a strict watch over the president, that's for sure. I tend to believe that these words aren't said for no reason. There's some truth in them. And as for Susie Wells, I trust that her judgment is accurate.